And good evening. My name is Rick Sodebeer. I am the owner and founder of LoveForALifetime.com, Love for a Lifetime LLC. I am a dating coach. I am a blogger, a speaker, and an author. I've co-authored a book on dating called Dating Backward. I've been a student of self and relationship improvement for nearly 30 years. So I have a little bit of background, plus all of the personal experience I've gone through. I've been through a lot of what you all have been through. So tonight we want to talk about some online dating security. And the reason I want to talk about that tonight is I've had several clients come to me about that. I've had a local TV station come to me about that. And while the online dating is relatively safe, we still have to take precautions. There are a number of things that we need to look at. And the first is when we meet somebody online, we need to take, especially ladies, we need to be especially cautious about letting people into our lives that we don't know yet. One of the things that we want to do, especially when we're online dating, is to not use any pictures that you've used on any other social media. For those of you that have any kind of online or Google search experience, you know that simply by doing a Google photo search, you can track somebody down with a picture. I have a woman that works with me in my seminars, a photographer, and she told us the story that when she first went online on Match.com, that she received an email at her her business email address when she opened the email. It said, please don't be creeped out. And well, what does that do? That automatically creeped her out. And she went on to read that he had Googled her picture, and lo and behold, he had tracked her down. Well, she took that picture down off of Match and put up some online dating specifics. So just be careful about the pictures that you use. I always suggest, especially ladies, use just pictures that you want specifically on your profile, because again, with just a little bit of tracking, a little bit of Google search, anything that you have up on Facebook, LinkedIn, any other social media can be tracked down. One of the other things that I always suggest, and it's amazing to me how many people I see, both men and women, use their real names as their screen names. One woman that I came across was in a fairly high-powered position with a securities brokerage firm. And when I came across her profile, I politely emailed her and suggested she change it. And the reason being in the securities industry, she's at high risk for security breaches, such as being kidnapped and held for ransom, that type of thing. So we had her change her name to a dreadful online username, but at least it started to keep her a little more protected. Now, one of the things that simply with a simple Google check, you can track somebody down, and for $20 you can do an inexpensive background search or a PeopleSoft search and find out where they live, what their phone number is. So you really want to be careful about putting any personal information up. When you create your profile, don't get too personal. Don't use your specific company name. in my doing some research, I tracked down a woman just by her first name, and she said she explained who she had worked for in her profile. She was a realtor, and at the time, it was shortly after a realtor had been murdered in northern Arkansas. So again, it's a matter of security. Now that murder was not involving anything with an online dating site, but again, women in real estate and in certain occupations do run an abnormal risk of sexual abuse or worse. So the idea of being cautious is incredibly important. There are a number of other things. One of the cases that's going on here locally in the Kansas City area is a case regarding a woman who met somebody online, and he gave her a name, not his actual name, and it turned out he was a sexual predator, and now it's turned into a stalking case. So there are some things that you can do to take precautions to avoid situations like that. Now, there are going to be predators that are very charming, whether they're scammers or actual sexual predators. These people will in no uncertain terms charm your socks off. And one of the things that I've found is that they tend to prey on the most susceptible. When you write your profile, they will look for certain words, certain phrases. They'll look for a certain loneliness or desperateness in your profile. And when they see that desperateness or that loneliness, they'll start using your words to charm your socks off. I have one client that I'm working with right now that was built for about $18,000 in computer goods, and they come up with all kinds of stories. This guy was out working on an oil rig and needed new computer equipment because the company equipment burned up or blew up or whatever term he used, and he said they had no way of the company wouldn't send them new computers, and he had no way of accessing money or paying his bills. So she paid something like $9,000 to send him 3 computers. Well, to make a long story short, he said his son was bringing the computers to him, and he was robbed, and the computers were stolen. Could she send another 3 computers? Well, there goes $18,000. And so, whenever somebody starts asking you for money or for equipment, they say some of the biggest scammers will tell you that they are out in the oil fields or out on the oil rigs. They're a missionary out in the middle of nowhere. They don't have access to their bank accounts for whatever reason. The bank accounts are frozen. They're missing an ID or something along that line. Will you send them some money? And it can start with small amounts at first, but pretty soon they're asking for thousands of dollars at a time. So with that being said, anytime somebody starts asking you for money, that's the time to run in the other direction. Or to have a little bit of fun with them, you can always say, gee, I was hoping you'd send me some. And I've had a couple of clients turn that around on them, and they kind of disappear kind of quickly. Then one of the other scams that I've run into is people from another country claiming that they're living in this country, wanting to get to know you, fall in love with you, and then they tell you, well, I'm in the Philippines, I'm in Malaysia, I'm in Africa, I need some money to get back to the country. And they want to come and meet you, and they need to finance. They can't afford a plane ticket, they can't afford whatever it is, but that's another way that they snag you for money. Some safety tips that you can employ whenever, especially for ladies, whenever you're going out on a first date with somebody that you don't know. There are some basic safety tips. Again, if anybody out there listening has any questions, feel free to shoot me a question. I'd be more than happy to answer it. But in the meantime, we'll keep going. Some of the basic safety tips: ladies, never have a gentleman pick you up at your home on the first date. Always meet him in a public place. On this first date, always make sure that somebody knows where you're going and who you're going with. Even if they give you a false name, at least you have something to go on. And if possible, which is if it's somebody you've met online and they have a picture, a photo ID or a photo on their profile, it may or may not be accurate, but at least it gives the police, if something happens, it gives the police something to go on. There are a couple of apps for college students. There's one called, I believe it's called Walk With Me. And then there's another one called, for non-college students, it's called Companion. And it literally tracks where you are. And you can give somebody access to where you're going, and they can track you the whole time. So that if something does go wrong, they have a good idea of where you're going. And it looks like my friend Mindy is still navigating the snow and on her way to Detroit. So it looks like it's just going to be my face, the face that was made for radio, with you tonight. So anyway, going back to online dating safety. If you're going to meet somebody in a public place, if you don't have access or don't utilize things like Walk With Me or Companion, you can have somebody go with you on the first date. They can sit in with you, and while it may not be the most comfortable situation for the gentleman, it's not a bad idea to have somebody, especially if you don't know that much about someone, regardless of how charming they are. I would never tell somebody that the prospective date that you're bringing somebody, let it be a surprise. One of the other alternatives is that if you do say that you're going to bring someone, it may scare them off, and they may say, well, no, if you don't trust me, then I guess we just won't meet, which is probably a pretty good sign that there was something dubious going on. Again, scammers will be very, very charming, and will be very, very difficult to detect any potential red flags early on. Although one of the things that I find is that anybody that's telling you a story or is being dishonest with you, you can always track back to their online dating profile, anything that any emails or texts that you've shared. One of the things I always recommend doing is that when you're going to meet somebody on a first date is review their profile. Review the information in there. Review your text conversations or email conversations. That way you refresh yourself on who this person is and the conversations you've had, so that when information comes up that may be incongruent, that you'll catch that more quickly. And you can say, well, gee, back in your texts or in your emails, you said this, and now you're saying this. And if there's something amiss, they'll start to scramble and try to cover their tracks. And at that point, you can say, yeah, this just doesn't sound right. There will usually be inconsistencies in their story. So that's one thing that if you can pay attention, be very, very aware of what your conversations are, and even look from email to email to make sure that the conversations are consistent. One of the other things that I often recommend is that if this is somebody that wants to get together relatively quickly, that's okay. Again, ladies, he may want to be a gentleman, insist that he come and get you and pick you up, which is the normal gentlemanly thing to do. But it would be to your benefit to insist that you meet him someplace and drive yourself so that you have a way to get home. Now, with that being said, when you get into these early meetings, one of the things that I would always disclose up front is that if there's any question, you can tell them that you would like to make sure that at some point in the very near future you would like to do a background check and check for STDs, have medical tests done, so that you know that you're connecting with somebody in good standing, good health, that's not going to give you something that is not going to give you a gift that keeps on giving. Let's put it that way. And so if you're dealing with a potential scammer or a sex predator, that would be a good way to scare them off, right? Even before you start dating, I would make it clear that would be part of the dating process, and you should be open to it also. That you would be willing to have a background check and provide your medical records, and not medical records, but tests for STDs. So those are some of the the ways to protect yourself. One of the other ways is not to give out your personal email address or your phone number. Through most of the dating sites and through sites like Google or their Gmail account, you can set up a phone number through there. For sites like Match.com, you can use one of their phone numbers where the gentleman or the lady, in whichever case it might be, will have a phone number to contact you, but they won't have your phone number, so they can't stalk you. They can't track you down through that phone number. And there are ways of tracking people down through these things. A few minutes ago, I alluded to the fact that you can do a background check. Now, there are background checks available that, for $25, you can go online and have a deal with a company that says they'll do a great background check and get you this and this and this and this. Those are not worth the money. What you actually need is an investigator that actually has people that can go into the courthouse, track somebody down. A lot of times, most states will have some sort of online court tracking system. In the state of Missouri, it's called CaseNet, with a name, a last name, or a middle name. You can track people down. If you have a birth date, it's even better. If you have some idea if you're dealing with somebody that's divorced, um, there will be those records on file too, so you can track that down, um, and just verify whether they're divorced or not. I've run across a number of people that have come through with on online profiles said they were divorced. Well, that wasn't quite true. They're still married and out there looking. So there are a lot of things that can be discovered, but for a true background check, you need to spend. Oh, I've got one company that I work with that charges about $125. They're out of Chicago, and they do a very thorough background check. They've been in this business, in the investigative business, for I think close to 25 or 30 years. And so they have a lot of boots on the ground around the country. They have resources that can go into most major courtrooms or courthouses and access records. And just, again, the separate email addresses, don't use your personal email address. Most email accounts that you set up, if you set up a bogus account, you can just have that, any email from online dating forwarded to your personal email address. Just make sure you don't reply using your personal email address. So there are a lot of ways of preventing problems. Again, some of these people are very charming, and it is very difficult to tell. And that's in a lot of cases, that's where having another set of eyes and ears helping you, from the perspective of some coaching, to say, okay, what's going on? Tell me about him. Tell me about her. What's he doing? What's he not doing? And there may be some signs and signals that we can pick up that the average person wouldn't be attuned to. But always make sure that you're talking to your friends and letting them know who you're dating, or who you are talking to online. And when you do meet, make sure that at least one person or a couple of people, somebody in your family, a close friend, your best friend, make sure that they know where you're going, and again, who you're going with. I've been going on here for about 23 minutes, and if any of you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. So just fire them away. In the meantime, one of the things that I have found is that in online dating, when you create an extraordinary or a really good profile, you will naturally chase away some of the criminal element, because they know that they can read into your profile that you're sharp, that you know what you're doing. And again, these people tend to prey on people that in general will have a sense of desperation in their profile. They will give the air of sexuality, typically something to the fact that they're very passionate people, they're very loving people, they're very caring people, and it's not bad to use those words, but you have to be careful how you're writing your profile, because a lot of that, or how you write the profile, goes a long way into the people that you attract. Just trying to go over a couple of other things here, and I don't want to make this an evening oh, online dating is so dangerous, when in fact it really is not. We always hear the negative stories of online dating, but one of the things that is true, there are a lot of people that do meet online. It is a great tool to meet people that you wouldn't normally meet in your everyday life. And so I want to end on a note that there are some really great stories, and I have a couple of personal stories about it. First, my sister, many years ago, well, probably 10 years ago now, met her current husband online, and that is a very strong marriage. And this past weekend, I was with some dear friends, and I discovered that they met on a website called Zoosk, and they are just totally, absolutely head over heels in love with each other. And I have rarely ever seen a couple so well matched and so much in love. This is a couple that most couples are going to want to aspire to be. She's crazy about him, he's crazy about her, and it looks like it's a match made in heaven. So that being said, you do have to be careful, but again, there are so many great relationships that come out of online dating, and that's one of the things that I do want to encourage, because one of the things that I do hear from a lot of people is, oh no, I could never do that. It's too scary. There's too many problems out there, too many scammers, too many whatever. The reality is, in the 5 or 6 years that I've been dating since my divorce, I've only met a couple of people online that have not been honest with me. Again, part of it is the way my profile is written, and I can look at people that have said, oh yeah, I get hit on by all the wrong people, and I can look at their profile and say, yeah, that's a profile that would attract the type of people you're attracting. And that's one of the services that I provide. I can help you rewrite your profile or create a new profile for you. One of the things that we always encourage is to have fresh, current pictures taken for your profile. Always have a smile in your picture, especially your profile pic, the lead picture. So there's any number of things that we can help you with as you're dating. If you're dating somebody, one of the services that we provide is a coaching service that helps you, that helps pull you back from the veil of infatuation and help remind you that hormones lie, that things can get hot and heavy very quickly, and the idea is to make the best decisions for you possible. And sometimes it just takes somebody in the background to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, that's probably not your best choice. A lot of, and I can't tell you the number of times that I've talked with people and said, oh yeah, everybody around me said that, my family said, my friends said that this person wasn't the right person for me. But, I stuck around, we ended up getting married, whatever the situation was, and they look back and say, yeah, this was not a right relationship for me. And I can go back even into my marriage and go back to the first month that I dated my ex and see that the red flags that I ignored. So I've been there. I've experienced it all, or most of it. And so I understand everything that everybody goes through, the emotions, the joy, the excitement of being in a new relationship. The excitement, especially if you haven't been in a relationship for a while, meeting up with somebody new is always fun and exciting, but we want you to be safe. We want you to be happy. And we want you to take precautions as you go into a new relationship or exploring a new relationship on the first few dates. So anyway, we're at the bottom of the hour, and it's about time for us to sign off. So I'd like you all to check out my website. It's loveforalifetime.com. That's love, L-U-V, the number 4, a lifetime.com. Check us out. Check out our upcoming social events. We've got a meetup group that we've just started in the Kansas City area called the Kansas City Singles Mingle Meetup Group. We're going to have our first meeting on Tuesday, January 19th in the Overland Park area. So if you're in that area, come and join us. So anyway, folks, have a great evening. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week, the same time, same place, and have a great week, folks. Thank you.